This is That Guy Jig Sports Podcast. I am him, JIG. Subscribe, rate, and review. Amazon, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Check us out. We're also on Instagram at That Guy Jig. We're talking NBA. We got 21, 22 games left until the end of the regular season. The picture's coming together. The film is starting to develop. The cloudiness is starting to leave. We are finally starting to see which teams are truly contenders. And we're starting to see which teams that we aren't so sure on. The Phoenix Suns are one of those teams we're not too sure on. I was very high on them, but then they got this bug called the injury bug. Bradley Beal is in and out of the lineup. Now Devin Booker is hurt. So he's going to miss some time before the playoffs. Now, once again, this big three that they have assembled is not going to have time together. And you need time. You need chemistry. That's one of the biggest things about this game of basketball is that you have to gel on the court. If you don't gel on the court, it can't come together. So when you look at the Phoenix Suns and you look at some of the games that they're losing, a lack of a ball handler is something that you're seeing. You have Bradley Beal playing the point, or you have Kevin Durant bringing it up. Sometimes you see Yusuf Nurkic. But Devin Booker is kind of the primary ball handler for them, as well as probably the most consistent scorer as of late. Kevin Durant's been up and down. He's been struggling. Their game against the Thunder, they struggled in that game. They let the Thunder come back, and the Thunder beat them very handedly. Shea once again went for 30, Mr. 30, Mr. Consistency. Right now, he is my favorite for the MVP. But the Suns, they are missing something. And it could be that the missing ingredient may never come. What they are missing could have been patience. Because we got to remember that the Phoenix Suns were in the NBA Finals not too long ago. And then they lost and they blew up that roster and started chasing waterfalls. I think TLC told us to listen to the rivers and the lakes that you're used to. Well, I guess the Phoenix Suns could have taken a page from TLC. Because now they're chasing something that I don't think they're going to get. People have to understand something about Golden State. Is that Golden State dynasty was the perfect storm. It was the perfect team. And it took that franchise years. It took that team years to develop in the NBA. And there's so many teams, Boston Celtics, Phoenix Suns, that are trying to build a mold of this Golden State, get you 3 studs, a couple fill-in pieces, and you win as many championships as possible. But the one thing I think people are forgetting about is that Steph Curry and Klay Thompson do not need the ball as much. Klay Thompson is a spot-up shooter. Klay Thompson has the most points in the NBA with the fewest amount of dribbles. He does not need the ball in his hands the full time. He just needs enough time to shoot. Same with Steph Curry. All these guys took a back seat. They took less. And I just think that is such a beautiful thing. The ball movement of Golden State. That's another thing. Everybody was always moving. Everybody was touching the ball. They didn't really play ISO ball. And that's why I think a lot of people get it confused. Because when you think of that Golden State team with Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Andre Iguodala, Draymond Green, etc., I can keep going. But when you look at those three, I think people see a lot of the Kevin Durant pulling up in the NBA Finals to ice the game versus the Cavs. They see a lot of the pull-ups to dagger teams, but they're not understanding that they got to that position because they were moving the ball with extremely well. Go back and watch that Golden State Warriors team with Kevin Durant, and you look at the ball movement. You look at how many possessions everybody touches the ball until the defense finally, you give up a shot, an open shot, but instead of it being to your 4th best player, it's the 2nd best player in the world. It's the 2nd best shooter ever of all time. That's the guy that ends up getting on the rotation. I mean, we've all Everybody who's played the game of basketball and practiced the game of basketball, we've all done the drill where you're rotating on defense. You're swinging it. The offense is swinging the ball around the perimeter, and you have to go on the fly. You have to replace and fill and talk, And then there's the flip side of that on the offense where you try to do that and you try to make it to where the defense gives up that open shot. We see it all the time where they say, oh, good ball movement. Pass up a good shot for a what? A great shot. And that Golden State Warriors team did that a lot. And that is what you don't see a lot from the Phoenix Suns, and you don't see that from the Boston Celtics. I know the Boston Celtics just dog walked Golden State. I understand that. I understand what they just did. They just dog walked Golden State, and they put the whole NBA on notice. But before we get to that, let's stay back on this Sun setting. Because like I said, if they do not get back healthy in time for the playoffs, just to get a little bit more chemistry for that big three, I'm not sitting here saying let's play the Phoenix Suns first round. Nobody in the West is that naive to say let's play Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker in the first round. Let's do that. Let's volunteer. Stick me with that, bud. Right there in the knee. We're draining fluid. No one's saying that. But no one fears them. They are not feared. They're a team that you're going to have a dogfight with, that you're going to have to put up points. Last year in the playoffs, you knew you had to put up points against Phoenix. So now you add another 25-point score and Bradley Beal. Well, yeah, you're going to have to put up some points, but guess what? There's only one basketball, folks. Remember that. There's only one basketball. So when teams sign all these players, they trade for this. They bring in all this talent. You have to remember there's only one basketball. Only one person gets to shoot per possession. This isn't All-Star Weekend where you have three guys hoisting up the skill challenge and trying to get 500 points. This isn't that. This is a team sport. There's one shot. So the Phoenix Suns better figure it out, or they might find themselves as a one and done and see you in Cancun. And if it doesn't work this year, what do? Do you bring back this team? Do you bring back Kevin Durant? Do you bring back Bradley Beal? Because you kind of have to, with the way the new NBA is set up. You can't go out there and get you some top priority free agents when you have these three players. You can only get veteran minimum players. You can only get certain players. That's how it's set up. The NBA does not want super teams. So it's very interesting for a team like Phoenix. Because you went all in on this season. You said we're pushing all of our chips in the middle of the table. And you did it. And we'll see. Because now we're moving on to Boston and this dog walk of Golden State. And I'm going to tell you something. In every there's always a silver lining. And the silver lining is that there's going to be an NBA team in the playoffs that says, Jaylen Brown, you're going to have to beat us for 7 games. That is the only way the Boston Celtics are going to move on, is if Jaylen Brown beats us for 7 games. And I'm here to tell you, if Jaylen Brown is the guy that you are depending on to take you to that next level, I too will push all my chips to the middle of the table and say, let's do it, because I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Jaylen Brown's a hell of a basketball player. He's the top 1%. He could shut down any Anytime Fitness, any YMCA gym. He could shut it down, man. But what I'm telling you right now is he is the same guy that was in that dunk contest. This is who we're depending on. That same guy. The same guy who was in the dunk contest, who was doing great in-game dunks during a dunk contest. This is the same guy that we're depending on. Yes. Steve Kerr, genius. Bad result. Genius play, bad result. But let's do that same experiment 10 times. How many times does Boston win? How many times does Boston win by 50? See, these are the questions that need answers. Boston's on an 11-game win streak. They are rolling right now. They have one of the easier schedules in the NBA to close out the season. So Boston will be primed. Boston will be ready. But can they stay healthy? And by they, I mean Kristaps Porzingis. Because if Porzingis goes down, so does this ship. Because you let go a lot. You had to bring him in. So when you bring in Kristaps Porzingis, you have to do something. He has to move the needle. He has to be the reason that we're getting over the hump. Rim protection, defense, cool. We don't need you to score 25 points here, Chris. We need you 15. If you can give us 15 and 8 and a couple blocks in the game in the playoffs, the Boston Celtics have well enough offensive artillery to keep up in the Eastern Conference. Now in the West, I don't know. But in the East, they definitely have enough offensive artillery to keep up. They just need Kristaps Porzingis to move the needle just a little bit. That's what he was brought in for. I don't believe he's that guy. I believe Steve Kerr showed the rest of the East and the rest of the NBA how you beat the Boston Celtics and you make Jaylen Brown beat you. The guy that people say can't go left. I don't know if you've seen a basketball court, but you can go left and right. He can only go to the right side, they say. So that's a problem. So I'm with Steve Kerr. You pick your matchup and you live with it. And it just so happened that day, Boston got hot. Like I said, 11-game win streak for them. 11-game win streak for them. Another team out east that's rolling, who I think could give them a trouble, besides the Miami Heat, is the Milwaukee Bucks. They are rolling. They are rolling right now, folks. They figured it out. They have figured it out. And what's a little more scary about the situation is that Chris Middleton is not in the lineup right now. So when Chris Middleton comes back, they are going to be a little bit better. And I think with Dame being more comfortable, remember, Dame was going through some personal issues. It looks like the guy is focusing on basketball again. It's looking like he's starting to have fun again, which is a problem for the rest of the East. That's going to be a problem for the rest of the East, and it's definitely going to be a problem for the Boston Celtics, because I'm here to tell you the Boston Celtics have nobody to cover Giannis Antetokounmpo. They have nobody to cancel him out. They have nobody to stop him. He is an NBA unstoppable, untouchable. He is going to get his 25, 30 points per game in the playoffs. You can believe it. The Milwaukee Bucks, and you heard it here first, what they need, only thing Milwaukee needs is for Brook Lopez to be 7 foot. There's no reason why Giannis doesn't play last game and Brook Lopez finishes with 5 rebounds. Brother, you're 7 foot. Be a presence. You are a rim protector at that on defense. There's not too many centers that are out there stretching the floor where you have to be on the 3-point line. You should be crashing. Bobby Portis is coming along. That Bobby Portis and Patrick Beverley combo off the bench is going to be God tier in the playoffs. Because when the team is down, when the team looks like they might not want to play basketball today, those two can kickstart it. And they can also get into people's head and take them completely out the game. Patrick Beverley, make no bones about it, is an NBA great player. You want him on your roster. I would rather have Patrick Beverley on my team than not on my team. Because he's just one of those players that if he's on the opposing team, you hate him. But if he's on your team, you love him because you know he's going to give you 100% effort. He's going to get the people going. Get the people going. That's what he's going to do. Like, that's what Patrick Beverley does, and you got to love it. You got to love it. So like I said, the Milwaukee Bucks are starting to figure it out. They were 1-6 before All-Star break. I think they're 6-1 or 5-1 or something like that. They're rolling. They're rolling. And that's what you like to see. Like I said, we got 21 games, 22 games, depending on the team. Playoffs start next month. So, I mean, this is going to be great. And the West is getting so hot. I mean, it's getting so heavy. It's getting very, very, very heavy. OKC, Minnesota, and Denver all right now are with half, however you want to say it, a game back of each other. And with the Thunder losing to the Lakers, it might actually be tied right now. This three-way race is huge because it determines home court advantage. And that's huge, especially for a team like Denver. You know, where people say the altitude plays a factor and all that stuff. But I'm here to tell you the team that needs it the most is the OKC Thunder. A young team like that, they need that home court advantage. They need it. They're already going to struggle with depending on who they match up with size. I've said this once. I've said it twice. I don't believe the Thunder's year is coming this year. I think next year they have a better chance because they'll be able to get some depth. They'll be able to use some of those draft picks to bring some players in. I do not believe, as presently constructed, the Thunder are going to make a run this year, especially if they run into the Lakers, which is probably more than likely going to happen because the Lakers are going to be in the play-in. So if the Thunder end up playing a Los Angeles Lakers first round, I'm going for 2 Lakers. Lakers just have too much size. The Thunder are very, very, their guards are big, but they lack size. And also, they have a guy named Josh Giddey, who is also an offensive liability. You don't have to guard him. You do not have to guard Josh Giddey on the perimeter. You can let him shoot. And if you don't believe me, just go watch some of the Thunder's last 10 games. And look at how many times Josh Giddey is left wide open so he can shoot. Because you don't have to respect it. You don't have to. And see, when you have that type of thing in your lineup, it's hard for me to say that team's going to go to the finals. There's not a single player on the Nuggets roster that you would just let shoot all day. Now, Aaron Gordon is not the best shooter in the NBA. I will not argue with you. He is not the best shooter in the NBA. Hell, he's bad. But you still wouldn't let Aaron Gordon shoot. You don't let Aaron Gordon shoot. He's an all-star, lottery pick, all that good jive. But my point is, the Nuggets do not have anybody that you do not have to guard. The Thunder have 2 guys in their offensive starting lineup, Lou Dort and Josh Giddey, who you don't have to worry about those 2. You can lock up, which you can't lock up Shea. But you can put your best defender on Shea, your second best defender on Jay Will. Your center matches up with Chet, whatever. And you just make those other 2 beat you. It's going to have to be Giddey and Lou Dort beating me. Because other than that, with those 2 flaws in your lineup, you can't be taken seriously. It's hard for a team to have somebody in their starting lineup you don't have to respect. I mean, the Lakers don't have anybody in their starting 5 that you don't have to respect as a shooter. You have to. So that's my whole thing about it is, well, what are you going to do when the game gets down to the nitty-gritty and you have to rely on, Isaiah Joe? I get it. He's a great shooter, excellent shooter, but who the hell is he guarding on defense? And that's why I think the Thunder need home court. They're going to need all the help they can get, especially if they want to make a run this year. With this, like I said, as presently constructed. The Timberwolves, I don't think they're going to make much of a run at all. I think they'll finish high just because of the strength of schedule they have had this year. But I was high on them early in the year. I was stoned immaculate for the Minnesota Timberwolves and what they could do. But Karl Anthony Towns just has not matured for me enough. Especially after that stat chasing game that he did. That right there just really rubbed me the wrong way. Only because what he said about the great Russell Westbrook and him chasing stats and other players in the NBA chasing stats. I'm just not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of someone saying something, talking that jazz, but then all of a sudden I look up and you're up there all up on the saxophone. That's wild. What are we talking about here? Like, we watched your team literally blow a lead because they wanted to watch you go for 70 or whatever the fuck number it was. And you lost. So now, not only do you look like a jackass, you're a loser. So you're a loser and a jackass. That is wild. That is wild. But hey, Karl Anthony Towns for you. But the MVP, like I said earlier, man, I got Shea. I got Shea, Jokic, and Tatum. I got Tatum just because the Celtics are rolling. And like I've said before many times, I'm from the era where the best team, the best player, that's usually who gets the MVP. So if the Boston Celtics finish number 1 in the NBA overall, he's the best player on that team. He should probably get MVP. And that's just how I feel about that. And this is how I feel about the dark horse. I got one dark horse for each conference that I think could really, really, really make a run. And for the West, I hate, as much as it pains me to say this, if the Lakers can just get a few things to go their way, as far as shooting, they will be all right. They will be all right, and that's not a team you want to see in the playoffs in the first round just because they have a guy named LeBron James. But if we're talking out east, I don't even know if this is a dark horse, but watch out. Miami's starting to jail. The Heat are starting to jail. Terry Rozier's getting his traction. He's getting his footing. Jimmy Butler's doing Jimmy Butler's. He's starting to heat up because the playoffs are coming. The playoffs are coming. So watch out for the Heat and watch out for the Lakers. It would be really funny if we got a Lakers-Heat finals again like we did in the bubble. It'd be really funny. But at any rate, this is That Guy Jig Sports Podcast. I am him, J.I.G. I appreciate you for listening. Make sure you subscribe and tell a friend to tell a friend so that way we can all be friends. We got 2 more episodes dropping. We got college football and we got the NFL. A lot of stuff's going on. March Madness is upon us. Make sure you follow the Instagram for all the college basketball picks. And once again, this is That Guy Jig. I am him, J.I.G. Peace.